or you could go with this angel, be obedient, and go to judgment. And something in me wanted to go to be with what I was familiar with on earth, but I knew I needed to be obedient to the call. And it was strange having this feeling of free will in the spirit realm. But as I was leaving the earth, levitating off of it, the 3 levels sort of went into the face of the earth. And I remember seeing the earth was covered in like this blanket, and it was thousands of demons running across earth in this big, like uncoordinated, but yet mad fight against the light that was shooting out from earth. There was these like light beams that were like sun flares almost shooting up from the face of the earth. And when one happened, they would all dogpile on top of that flare, and boom, another one would show up in like South America. And I could see a big view of earth from a distance. And I remember thinking there was a fight against good and evil. And I knew that God, the angels were underneath that. And they must have been the children of God. And later on, I've concluded that those are like the prayers of the saints that must have been shooting up, and the demons were trying to stop it, but they couldn't stop it because the light is stronger than darkness. Shortly after, we kept flying into the sky, and the earth sort of receded from view, and I hit a wall of water. And it was roughly around 8 feet thick. That's an approximate. I couldn't measure, obviously. I was suspended in it, but it was a wall of water out there in the firmament. And it was very confusing why I was in this wall of water. But now the angel goes from my side and goes into the front. He says, you need to release all that is within you. You have to release all the air that is within you to go where we're going to go. And I remember releasing some of the oxygen that was inside of me, and it was like burst into flames. It was very unique. And at this point, before this point, I had felt like I could choose what I needed to do. But at this point, I was truly having to surrender. And so I remember fighting for that last breath. I was holding on to it. I'm in the water. I'm looking at him, and he's glowing. He's very tall, at least 8 feet or maybe a little bit bigger, but around 8 feet in that range. And he's like a warrior, and his face is glowing. It's hard to see at that time. But I finally surrender, and I say, okay, I'm accepting whatever happens to me. And I finally release that. And the minute I surrender, we're transformed, and my eyes are opened to a new dimension of the spirit realm. And there was a stadium, like this square building that I remember seeing way down in the distance, and we were above it. And we quickly descended into it. And it was glowing. It looked like the sun, but yet I could see like a stadium, like a bleacher set up. We landed right in the middle, and it's like my eyes are adjusting. My eyes are adjusting to the light. First thing I see is tiles, and they're like pieces of artwork. They're translucent, and I've tried to discover what that material was, but there was like art hanging, like emeralds and diamonds and like flowers, but yet they were like majestic carved artwork that was in each tile. From what I now know was a throne room that I got to see at this point. And I do believe that God was shielding me from the glory, because no one has seen the face of God. And I didn't see the face of God. But as I looked up, I looked over, and I saw what I remember was God sitting on a throne. And this is what really trips me up, is I saw him drink out of a coffee mug. And I remember thinking in my self-righteous mind at that time, how dare you sit down and not do anything while the earth is on fire, while babies are dying. And mind you, at this point, I was incredibly self-righteous. So as I'm soaking everything up, I'm stunned at the array of glory that's around me. I look up, and there's what look like thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of angels, all standing at attention, different nationalities, all dressed in robe-like appearance. And there's just so much happening. But yeah, I'm looking around, I'm taking it all in, and they're all at attention. Angels standing next to me, and I hear next are, it's time for judgment. And it was like, let it begin. And these big screens popped up, and my life started playing from the very beginning. I was born in Texas, 1995. My parents holding me. I could see the home I was born in, my parents holding me. And then my life fast forward to those early years as my parents started discovering this people group that we moved in with. And then the dark times, I saw those like dark clouds of those memories come in, some of the abuse that happened as a young child, and the hurt and the pain that started building up, and the anger I went through. I watched everything go from a third view perspective. And there was these 3 huge hologram screens that everyone could watch. Every detail. And this time, this life that I was watching was not good. It wasn't like exciting. It wasn't filled with hope. And I remember thinking, like, well, this is the life I've lived. As things went on, I watched myself, put the paint gun into the water, saw myself set the alarm, and I laid down and heard my neck snap, and the screens folded up, and that was my life. And I remember thinking, like, that's it? Like, what a hopeless life you've lived, man. And so shortly after, I heard, is his name in the book of life? And I'm thinking, I forgot about that. But in the scriptures, it says that if your name is not in the book of life, you're not in. And at this point, I don't have a recollection of my faith in Jesus per se. And I don't remember like me being a Christian on earth. I'm seeing things through a very religious lens at this point, a very like clouded, self-righteous lens, you know. And this angel is holding this giant notebook, and there's all these names, you know, Daniel, Kaylin, Rebecca, Hannah, and there was many, many more names that were read, and it felt like it went on for hours. And at this point, I thought time felt like it was at least a day or two, maybe 3 days. It was very difficult to understand time. What felt like 5 minutes could have felt like a day. Time was not a construct anybody was in. We were in eternity. We no longer were bound by minutes. We were in eternity. And I can explain more of what that felt later. But as the names were being read, I started panicking. I'm thinking to myself, I could just claim a name, be dishonest. Like, oh, that's my name, and I could get in. But I knew that wasn't a place for dishonesty, and I knew that I had to accept my fate. And as the names were read, all of a sudden, I heard this electric crackle almost go through that room. And mind you, the face of God is shining so bright. I could not see his face. It's like the sun, but I can see an outline lower from there. And it's a human body from what I can see. We are made in God's image. So from my earthly clouded eyes, I could see what looked like a figure of a human. But he leaped up and he said, Jojo, right as the name Jojo was read from the book of life. I heard God say it at the same time. And he leapt up in front of me. Now he's not beside me. He's standing in front of me, like he's towering. And he says, Jojo, this whole time you thought I've been angry with you. This whole time. And he went on and on and on, explaining that the bitterness that I was experiencing was not him. He said, I've brought you here to show you my love. And he just shoots me with this huge laser beam, like this rainbow fusion. It just hits me with his love. He said, I've brought you here to show you who I truly